Well, hi everybody. Welcome to Malvern Books. It's really great to see such a good crowd. I can turn off my radio. It's really good to see such a good crowd on a hot August afternoon, and boy, it is toasty out there, isn't it? We have the privilege of having Zoë Miller and Samuel Snook Brown reading for us from their work tonight. It's just awesome to have them here. Thank you so much for showing up, Sam and Zoe. And we will start with Zoe, and her work is in the Field magazine, which we have copies of here in the store. And so please take one, buy it, and she will be happy to sign it. Sorry to speak for you, but I'm making assumptions there. Zoë Miller grew up in Los Angeles. She received her BA in liberal arts from the New School University in New York City as a Riggio Arnish Fellow. We will forgive her for being supported by Barnes & Noble. Because they're not the bad guy anymore. Barnes & Noble's not the bad guy anymore. It's now Amazon. Barnes & Noble's in the same bed as we are. And completed her MFA in fiction at the University of Minnesota. Her short stories have appeared in 12th Street, Front Porch, and Fields magazine. She lives in Austin, Texas. And so, Zoe.
Thank you so much. I'd like to thank Malvern Books for having me tonight. I'll be reading the beginning of a short story recently published in Fields magazine. So if you'd like to hear all of the story when I stop, you should purchase a copy. There's also it's a great issue. There's a lot of great art, interviews, fiction, poetry. It's a wonderful, wonderful issue. So I also want to thank the editors at Fields magazine because this is going to be something. This is an awesome, awesome magazine. So my story is titled Wish Sandwiches. On the plane to Los Angeles, I flip through the pages of my sketchbook, but don't feel like drawing. If I did feel like drawing, I'd sketch the man sitting next to me. He's a large man. Out of the corner of my eye, I watch his belly rise and fall. He has the window seat and spends most of the trip staring out of it, snapping photos of the clouds below. He's wearing a straw fedora with a blue band wrapped around it. After he's tired of snapping photos, he takes the fedora off his head and places it upside down on his lap, exposing a few pieces of broken straw sticking up on the inside. I wonder if he feels the pieces prick his head when he wears it. When the captain makes the announcement that we are getting ready to land, the man puts his hat back on and our eyes meet. He asks me if I'm heading home, and I tell him that LA used to be home, that now I'm living in Brooklyn. I want to tell him my mom's got me out here to help get my sister into rehab, just to see what he'll say. Of course I don't. But he's almost like a mind reader because he takes a deep breath, his belly jiggling a little, and says that going back home is always a real trip. It feels like he wants to get chatty, the way people do when they get excited to land. And all of a sudden, I'm not feeling in the mood, so I don't say anything else. I'm not even polite enough to ask him if he's just visiting, like I'm sure he wants me to do. He seems like the kind of person who has a lot to say, and if it were another day, another place, I'd probably listen. My mother picks me up at the terminal, her Toyota grumbling, still fighting to hold on. I throw my luggage into the trunk and hop into the passenger seat. She kisses me quickly. "Thanks for coming, Sarah," she says. "It's so good to see you. It feels like forever." "Jesus, Mom, it hasn't been that long," I say. Ezra, my brother, is sitting in the back seat. He winks and then rolls his eyes so only I can see when Mom pulls away from the curb. I know he does this because there isn't anything else for us to do or say. And I know he's feeling awkward with his long, bug-bitten basketball legs pushed up against the seat behind Mom. The wink and eye roll is our way of reconnecting. It's like how when we were younger and we didn't have any lunch meat in the house after school, wasn't much of anything except some white bread if we were lucky, and I'd be scraping underneath the couch or in the pockets of Mom's jeans, lying on her bedroom floor looking for change, feeling responsible for at least getting something for Ezra to eat. And he would try to make me laugh, telling me not to worry, because we always had wish sandwiches, 2 pieces of white bread smushed together. And before you took a bite, he said, you wished for something in between those pieces of bread. It's almost been a year since I left for New York, and I've barely called home. When my mother calls, I always keep it quick. Tell her I'm busy, or else she'll talk on and on about my sister B. It feels strange sitting in her car again. It still smells the same. Smoke, vanilla hand lotion, and pine tree air freshener. My mother doesn't know that I'm not taking art classes like I said I was going to do when I left. That I never even applied to art school like I said I had. Just took the savings from working at Aaron Brothers, found a roommate and a nanny job on Craigslist for a French family living on the Upper West Side. I'd stopped painting after the first few months of being in New York. Well, I was still sketching, even using my watercolors. But what I guess I mean when I say I stopped painting is that I stopped trying, stopped believing that anything could or would happen for me besides waking up to get on a crowded C train every day, to change diapers, do laundry, and cut and drop organic vegetables into a baby food processor for 5-month-old Maxence. As cheesy as it sounds, in the beginning, I could hear Frank Sinatra singing as I walked the streets. I had one black dress from Goodwill, and I wore it out when I wasn't working, with these black stockings I'd found at the Salvation Army. Sometimes, wearing it, I felt Audrey-ish, like I was in Breakfast at Tiffany's. And when it rained, I used to think it poured down like the kind of silver glitter you'd shake onto your art projects in kindergarten. I'd spend hours at St. Mark's bookshop looking at books on painting. I even used to go to the White Horse Tavern and sit at the bar pretending I was waiting for someone. Sometimes men would offer to buy me drinks and I'd always say no. I was waiting for someone. I liked getting the offers though, and I liked staring at the painting of Dylan Thomas. And so I'd sit there for a few moments before taking out my cell phone so I could pretend that I was fed up waiting for my someone and leave. I knew it wasn't going to be all Sex in the City for me when I moved to New York, but even a crowded subway used to feel magical as it coughed its way down the track. When the old man with the feathers hanging off his dreads jingles his paper cup, walking up and down the car, singing Sam Cooke's A Change Is Gonna Come, I used to always drop a little something into it, placing my groceries and bottle of wine between my feet to dig through my purse for change. The wine I'd share later in the evening, sitting on the fire escape with my roommate, Rita. We took turns buying the wine for the night. She bought me a pair of dark green wine glasses from the housing works near her office as a welcome present when I first moved in. Drinking that wine, I'd think, fuck yeah, this is where I'm supposed to be. This is where I'm supposed to live. But seeing all those 18-year-old School of Visual Arts girls sitting on the subway the next morning with their big black leather art portfolios pressed between the knees of their $200 skinny jeans started getting to me. I'd never be able to work an unpaid internship at one of the Chelsea galleries. or even go to SVA without a loan. The woman I spoke with at the financial aid office said I'd have to be 25 if I wanted to take one out on my own. She asked if I had a parent who would be able to co-sign. I said I did and hung up, knowing full well my mother would never be able to sign for me. She didn't have the credit. Forget those fucking girls. It's called Mommy and Daddy's credit card, Rita said when I told her how I'd been feeling one night out on our fire escape. Besides, you only have to wait 2 more years. They say it's better to go to college when you're older anyways. You know, life experience and all that. I feel like I've earned that already, I said. The sky had turned the color of a candlelit room. 3 kids were playing monkey in the middle in the street, moving the game back onto the sidewalk when angry cars slowed to honk. An ice cream truck came singing up behind them, and more kids started running into the street. A few of them tracing steps back to their apartments, searching for coins that slipped out of their excited hands on the hurried run to meet the truck. It just takes time, Rita said, taking another sip of wine. Look at me. I started answering phones at Dr. Burns' office. A year later, I'm office manager, also going to nursing school with no one's help but my own. I mean, do you think Janice would have played the way she did? That kind of sound would have come out of her mouth if she'd been like all those other girls she grew up with in Port Arthur? We both are just going to have to help each other hit this shit extra hard, she said, pumping her fist into the air, smiling. The ice cream truck drove away, and the kids went back inside, but we sat there for almost an hour in complete silence as the sky got darker, our fingers wrapped around our empty glasses. We'd managed to drink 2 bottles of wine that evening, and as we sat there, I noticed we both still had a tiny bead of wine left, way down at the bottom of our glasses. I stuck my finger into my red droplet and licked it up. I want you to consider this a gift, my mother says at the red light. We are slowly making our way down Sepulveda, heading to the freeway. A woman in a sweatshirt glittering with rhinestones that spell out Venice Beach is pushing a grocery cart. Her 2 kids sitting in the back, grocery bags circled around them. The little boy is holding an open jar of peanut butter with one hand while he licks the fingers of his other. The sky is wide and soft, as blue as cotton candy. What gift, I ask. The ticket, the trip. I'm gonna pay you back. I know you have tons going on, and I appreciate you coming all this way in the middle of your semester to help with B. And I know I just called you a couple of days ago that you didn't have much notice, but things are not good. They've gotten really bad this time, like hitting the deep end bad. She waves with her right hand toward the pack of cigarettes on the dash, and then poof, it's as if I've never even left, as if I'm still living at home. I pull a cigarette out of the pack for her, even light it up for her, pop it in between her lips, just like old times. And it sort of is like old times. Bee's still pulling her same old shit, except Ezra and I aren't scrounging around looking for noodles to boil, helping each other with our homework, while Mom's out cutting hair and running the streets looking for Bee. As I watch her take her first inhale, the wrinkles on her lips get more crinkly as she sucks in. It makes me wonder what things are like for Ezra now that he's living alone with her. After another inhale, I take the cigarette out of her mouth so I can ash it out the window. This place I found is gonna really help Bee, she says. Like I told you over the phone, she doesn't know about it yet. Thinks I'm gonna let her live back at home, go to meetings. But this place is in San Bernardino, and it's almost free. The cheapest I could find, and they'll do a payment plan. This is it, Sarah. I can feel it. We've got to get her there is all. I can't stand her living in that hotel with that loser Keith. And this isn't any hotel. Oh no, it's a real killer. It's the Pits. Ezra, tell her, it's the pits. It's the pits, Ezra says. I notice his voice has gotten deeper. 2 more years and he'll be on his own. I wonder if he knows where he wants to go. If he'll stay living with Mom for a while. I wonder if he's sleeping over at friends' houses a lot, the way I used to. Mornings with orange juice and Pop-Tarts, a paper bag lunch, and a drive to school. My mother turns onto the crowded freeway, flicks her cigarette out the window. Do you both think we could just stop at the hotel now, she asks. I want to do it now before she changes her mind about wanting to come home. She takes one hand off the wheel and looks at her wrist as if she's wearing a watch. Time's ticking, you know. We'll stop and get some gas near the hotel, and I can add more coolant to the radiator. It's been leaking again. And then we'll head right on to San Bernardino once we get her to agree. Yeah, sure, whatever, I say. I'm hungry and tired from the 5-hour flight, but I know her mind is already made up. Even though she told me over the phone we were going to organize a plan, the 3 of us, take a few days to think about the best way to handle things before we went pounding into B's hotel room demanding change. Mom stays in the slow lane on the freeway, and I'm betting that Ezra must sense the way I'm feeling, because when I turn around to look at him, he mutters under his breath, quiet enough so only I can hear, B's not gonna go. Probably doesn't even remember telling you she would. This shit's gonna be bunk as hell. He's got an iPod he's pulled out of his hoodie pocket and is sticking the headphones into his ears. Where'd you get that, I ask him. I have my ways, he says. Rita and I were at the Whitney Museum when I told her I'd be going home for a week and that I'd leave her with my rent check a little early. Well, la-dee-da, she'd said. I knew she hadn't seen her family in almost 3 years. She was always mailing packages back home to Mumbai for her mother. We were standing in front of an Alfred Stieglitz photograph, one of the nude pictures he'd taken of Georgia O'Keeffe in her late 20s. We'd come for this exhibit. In black and white, Georgia's skin looked like the color of a calla lily. Her pubic hair was a thick triangle. She wasn't ashamed of it. Her arms were up over her head. Even though her head was cut off in the photograph, a tiny bit of her neck still remained, and you could see the soft hair underneath her arms. Lace billowed behind her, and shafts of light made their way in strips across her stomach. Rita, this isn't a vacation I'm going on. My sister's on drugs, I said. I'm going because my mom's begged me. I had to pay for it with the money I'm saving for school. An older woman in a very expensive looking red pantsuit with a gold carnation flower pinned to the lapel turned around. She'd been looking at another nude photograph Stieglitz had taken of Georgia. She'd obviously heard me. Rita put her hand on my shoulder, and we both kept staring at the photograph. People walked by. Some even walked around us. The pantsuit lady was trying not to look, but was still looking. $14 had been a lot for us to pay for the Whitney admission, and we spent the rest of the day making sure we got to see every exhibit. I don't think we missed one single piece. We made it to the gift shop before it closed, so we could play a game we'd recently invented when we went places together. If you were rich, what would you buy? What's Mom been doing for work, I ask Ezra. I keep an eye on the side mirror, watching as my mother walks into the gas station. Same old, cutting hair. Yeah? Yeah, but she's got her own chair now at the salon called Betty's near the house, so we don't use the car much anymore. It's finally breaking down pretty bad, as I'm sure you can already tell, he says, looking down at his knees. A few iridescent globs of gel shimmer between the strands of his hair. My mother had always wanted her own chair at a salon to cut hair in. She was tired of cutting hair at customers' houses. Some of them had yippy little dogs that nipped at her ankles as she tried to work. And some felt too comfortable and tried her for lunch or a cup of coffee when every second mattered, she said, since she'd have to drive across town to make another appointment. Have you heard from Dad, I asked. Nope. Mom throws his mail away now. She's even stopped opening it. You know, I'm not really going to school, I say. No? No. Wow, he says, I thought that was the whole reason you moved there. Holy fuck. Mom brags about you, but you're still a fuck up, just like the rest of us, he says, laughing. I have a job there, a friend named Rita I live with. Things are okay, it's just not what I thought it was going to be. It's a lot harder than I thought. Yeah, he says, I'm sure it is. He picks open one of his bug bites. It's the color of a ruby. I'm kidding about the whole fuck up thing, he says. You really must have some crazy ass skills if you've made it out there this long. I look out the side mirror again and see Mom walking out of the gas station, her shoulders slumped, carrying the coolant, curly hair spilling out of her ponytail. Don't tell her anything, I say, hopping out of the car to help her pump the gas. When Bea and I were in high school, Ezra just starting junior high, right after Dad moved away to Oakland, we had weeks when we didn't know where Bea was. Bea had gotten kicked out of school, and so she was running around with her friends, doing who knows what. I worked at Aaron Brothers after school until the evening, and then would have to pick Ezra up at the park where he played basketball with his friends. My backpack was always stuffed with pieces of wrapping paper my manager let me take home and make art out of. Remnants that were left from gift wrapping things for customers. I remember one evening around Christmas time. Bea was at home that week and doing better, and Mother was cutting enough hair, so she made dinner for us. And after dinner, after I washed the dishes, I emptied my backpack on the table, which had been stuffed with shimmering holiday gift wrap, and we all sat around the rest of the evening, making one long chain decoration together to hang up in the living room. Bea liked the silver glittery paper, and Mom liked the traditional Christmas colors. And Ezra found basketball wrapping paper with Christmas stockings on it. But then Mom said, "Oh, this is so nice. Isn't this nice, Bea?" And Bea told her to shut the fuck up, packed up her backpack, and went storming out into the night with a piece of silver wrapping paper stuck to the bottom of her combat boot, waving goodbye behind her. Bea's hotel is smack dab in the middle of the neighborhood. She sure stays close to home for someone who swears she doesn't want to have anything to do with it. The hotel looks like any old apartment building around here. Tag wars sprawled across faded peach stucco, a clay-colored roof with missing tiles, box fans spinning in the windows, people leaning over balconies, smoking cigarettes, looking down like they'd lost something. The only real noticeable difference is this building's got a big flashing red sign out front, $29.95 per night. Mom has parked the car down the street. So while we all walk towards the place, I'm making sure I get a good look at the way its entire body just stands there. The way its peeling skin soaks up the sun. If I were to paint it, I'd make sure to include the birds on the roof. I'd make sure that's where the viewer's eye went first. Birds all lined up in different sizes, bored and waiting for someone to drop a half-eaten something onto the concrete parking lot out front. I'd make sure to get the tangled telephone wires above the roof too, the way they sway back and forth, banging into the cotton ball clouds like jump ropes for the birds. And of course, I'd get the woman sitting out front right now next to the bulletproof glass office. She's got the tightest denim shorts on, the longest tannis legs. A duffel bag with clothes popping out of it sits beside her. Her hair is bleached so blonde, you could mistake it for white. She's got her head between her knees, doesn't even move it an inch when we walk past her and up the stairs. Bea opens the door, braless, in a stained white beater. She takes the plastic bag that Mom had gotten out of the trunk, especially for her. I realize I could have squashed it when I threw my suitcase in. We follow her inside, and she sits down on the bed and opens up the bag. The rest of us stand against the door, watching, right next to the window, the blinds slapping against each other from the vibrations of the air conditioner below. The bedspread Bea's sitting on is covered in blue and pink flowers. I squint and imagine them growing out of that bedspread, winding and creeping all over her legs and arms as she dips into the plastic bag as if we're not there, and takes out an individually wrapped piece of cheese. She tears the wrapper open and stuffs the cheese into her face and starts chewing, like she's got a big ball of yellow sun in her mouth, and it's warming her core, bringing light back into her face. We can hear the people in the next room, a cell phone going off, the ringtone, Snoop Dogg's Gin and Juice, a voice answering, "Who's this?" "Aren't you going to say hello to Sarah?" Mom says. "We came straight here from the airport." Ezra just stands there, leaning his back against the door like a regular. Bea takes a granola bar out of the bag. "Of course," she says. "Sit next to me, Sarah." She pats the bed a few times with the granola bar. She looks different. She's gained weight, and the hair on her head's 3 different colors. Her roots are her natural brown, the middle section an orangey red, and the tips as black as ink. I sit down next to her. There's a painting above the bed, an empty ocean with a postcard sunset, all 1980s dentist office style. Mom and Ezra are watching like it's some kind of TV show. I want to tell Mom she should take a picture. I mean, why not? This is a special moment. Bea and I are never together. Even before I moved, she never had time for me unless I had money to give her. She'd wait for me to get off work at Aaron Brothers, far away enough where my manager would never see her, but close enough for me to run into her on my way to the bus stop. The pathetic thing is I give her whatever I had on me, since she was always so happy after I gave it to her, jumping up and down, even hugging on me. And I liked the way she felt pressed against my chest like that, the smell of her skin, even if she smelled bad, all sweaty and unwashed. Bea drops the granola bar on the bed. "I hope they're not telling you I'm all drugged up or something. I'm only on Klonopins. They're for my anxiety. I have a prescription for my anxiety disorder, so they're full of crap, if that's what you've heard." Hey, I'm not here to judge, I say, even though I want to grab her, push her down on the bed, and tie her up with the blanket and carry her out of this place. "And I hope they told you that I'm working." She picks up the granola bar again, waving it around like it's her magic wand, and continues. "Working at Radio Shack, the one near here. I'm just not getting enough hours, and so if you're here for some specific reason, I'm not going anywhere. Keith's coming back soon, just left to bring his kids something in Long Beach. So if that's why you brought her here, you can all forget it," she says, pointing her granola bar wand directly at me. "You heard the lady," I say to Mom, nodding towards Bea, who's now struggling to pull off the granola bar wrapper. She pulls and pulls with both hands, but still can't seem to get it open, and then she rips the wrapper with her teeth. Oats and nuts fly into my lap. Ezra laughs. At first it sounds like a tiny cough, but then it really gets going. He's laughing so hard he starts bouncing up and down the way he does before he makes a basket. Mom looks at me, and I start laughing. I can't stop. Bea's staring at the both of us, and then Mom slaps Ezra across the face. "Hey, fuck, ouch! Why am I the one getting slapped? Sarah's the one who's not even going to college like she said she was," he says, pointing at me. I mean, Bea's at least not being honest here. When she says she's not going anywhere, she really means she's not going anywhere. And we keep on doing this. We keep on coming here. Ezra's cheek starts glowing red from the slap. Tell her, B, he says, pointing at Mom. Tell her you don't fucking want it. Tell her so we can just get away from this nasty-ass place, so we can move on. Tell Mom now, or else get your shit packed up and get ready to leave with us.